The first highlight of the day, the keynote. Here's the founder. Here's the boss. Here is the creative mind. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Stefan Hamann.
Ja.
It's absolutely impressive that you're all here. Good morning. Welcome to Duisburg. To us, Duisburg is the natural evolution of the idea of the Community Day. After all, the idea is to discuss and talk in a relaxed, authentic atmosphere with as many of you as possible, to develop new ideas together. And so that we can do all that with as many of you as possible, we've left our home in Münsterland to create more space for all of us. So here we are, and I'm glad you're here. I've got a lot planned for you today. I've got a lot planned for you today, so get excited. When you think of our main theme, Beyond Horizon, you inevitably think of the future of science fiction. But today, we're not concerned with beer-drinking robots, spaceships, or strange planets. Rather, we associate Beyond Horizon with an attitude of looking at ourselves and the world. It's about leaving our comfort zone, about daring to look to the unknown, about returning home with lots of new ideas and impulses. For us, Beyond Horizon is this unbeatable combination of imagination and courage, the stuff that success is made of. The power of imagination is a beautiful expression. Power means that we drive things forward, that we turn things upside down, that we change things, and that this ability to imagine things, to use creativity, so to speak, is injected in us at birth. Kids are intrinsic experts at this. When we look into our kids' playrooms, there's often a positive surprise to be discovered. I checked in on my son's Fabian's room, and I discovered this monumental construction. And if you're wondering what that white sheet is about in the background, I had asked Fabian earlier to clean up his room. I was interested about the story behind his work, so he explained to me what was going on. And to summarize it briefly for you, what you see here is the Iron King, and he's working on some really mean research up there in his laboratory tower. His goal is to build increasingly evil machines to enslave the astro-climber population, which are those guys hanging on the tower. Luckily, they've got some clever minds and are close to their final victory. That's what you thought, right? In Fabian's imagination, his playroom disappears. So he's experiencing interplanetary space battles while I'm in the basement working on some Keynote. While looking for treasures and secrets, he experiences incredible adventures, and he travels into the distant future to try and possibly prevent the robot rebellion after all. And this power of imagination, to let your imagination run wild, is deeply entrained in all of us. Yet as time passes, rational thinking takes over. We become better and better at distinguishing fantasy from reality. And in the end, when we look out the window, we no longer see spaceships or aliens, but the cold, naked, star-studded sky. At least most of us. But why is that? Starting somewhere around our 5th birthday, we start to drive all our ideas and thoughts through a reality filter that we created ourselves, and we intuitively continue to develop this filter. At some point, it becomes so omnipresent that every thought, every idea has to make its way through this filter. And in a certain way, this filter is the exact opposite of our imaginative powers. This leads us to look at the world as if through a fog and to miss important trends. There are many examples of great people who you automatically assume possess a lot of expertise, and you think to yourself, well, if he doesn't have a clue, then I don't know what to think, but who were hopelessly wrong when it came to thinking outside the box. For example, there was the Microsoft SIF, who never could have imagined that the iPhone would ultimately be successful. Then there's Gottlieb Daimler, the inventor of the car, who was firmly convinced that the lack of drivers would mean that his invention would not be too successful. Or this guy here, head of the American Patent Office, who 120 years ago thought that anything that could be invented had already been invented. Too bad he couldn't be here today. I'm sure you know many more examples. The result is always the same. A lack of far-sightedness causes you to miss important opportunities in your life. So our goal must be to make our reality filter more permeable so that we can let more awesome ideas cross the threshold into reality. We need to cultivate our imaginative powers because they hold amazing potential. They allow us to look forward. We're capable of developing a feeling for where our ideas or important trends can take us. Part of it, also today, is about getting out the arts and crafts scissors and to be that kid again who believes he can fly to the moon in a cardboard box. The problem usually is not a lack of ideas. We all have that one friend who claims to have had the idea to create YouTube. That third-degree cousin who invented the Spotify concept, or the taxi driver who to this day claims to have been the mastermind behind My Taxi. And these examples all have one thing in common: an idea alone is nothing more than smoke and mirrors. So, what is an idea really worth? The answer is quite simple. An idea without the courage to implement it is worth nothing. In addition to the power of imagination, we also need courage for our ideas to become successful. We have to muster the courage to believe in our ideas, and muster the courage to believe in the implementation of our ideas without interruption. And this has become incredibly difficult in today's world of IT and e-commerce, where the playing field is essentially dominated by 4 digital superpowers. And in this setting, just believing in the opportunities and possibilities of an idea is already a huge challenge. Especially as the industry prophets tell us that in this platform world, there is only one space left for us on the spectator seats. We see things a bit differently. Everything in life is subject to certain cycles, and that naturally also applies to the development and market position of companies. And one guy who knows what he's talking about got to the heart of it. Benedict Evans is basically in the middle of it all in Silicon Valley. And he essentially said the following: these cycles are so extensive that we often don't even notice that they exist. And if we take a look back, that becomes quite evident. IBM, or rather Big Blue, was the dominating IT company in the 80s. Microsoft assumed that position in the 90s, dominating the market for desktop operating systems and office applications. Today's Fantastic Four: Google, Apple, Facebook, and Amazon, who have set out to dominate the world with their platforms. Personally, I can't really imagine that everything has already been invented. There's not a single reason why today's status quo should be the status quo in 5, 10, or 20 years' time. Our world is constantly changing. New opportunities and possibilities are being opened without an end in sight. But don't get me wrong, it's likely that Google, Apple, and Amazon will still be on the market in 10 years. I'm not too sure about Facebook. Who knows? Perhaps someone in the audience today will make billions with his idea in the future. And if that's the case, then share your idea with me later. Looking at the horizon and discovering new territory, that requires the power of imagination and courage. And that's what today is all about. It's about rediscovering ingenuity, a pioneering spirit, and developing great new ideas with lots of imagination and courage. And that's also the theme that will accompany us today across more than 40 presentations. We want to look at the guiding theme from different perspectives and make sure that we look beyond our own limits and return home with fresh ideas and new momentum. And the next topic is all about creating new momentum. That, too, has a lot to do with the power of imagination and courage. It involves the massive impact that new technologies have on us, and especially also on online trade. And when we think about the last big invention that massively changed online trade, then the invention of the smartphone as we know it today definitely comes to mind. It has changed the way we think, act, and feel. And without a doubt, you can say that our current society is no longer what it was 10 years ago, not only because of, but definitely in part due to smartphones. I do think that our dear Steve wasn't the only one with his prediction in 2007. Only very few people could imagine the force and speed with which smartphones manage to permeate our society. And that is related to the fact that people think rather in a linear way. We have a very hard time recognizing and understanding exponential developments. We don't perceive the thresholds that we regularly cross and after which everything changes. Here at Shopware, we believe that we are currently standing at the edge of such a threshold once again, a threshold which marks the beginning of an exponential development that will swiftly turn everything upside down, so the future is pretty much at our door. And the first signs of this future can already be seen today in the shape of semi-intelligent language assistants and novel end devices. But to be totally honest, all of that isn't truly awesome quite yet. You won't die if you're missing out on these things. I might, however. And that's really what is decisive here. Large things often only announce their arrival in very small ways. And things really get exciting when we start using our imagination and think about how these technologies will develop. What actually happens when you combine these possibilities into new products? The things that emerge have the potential to generate an incredible added value for people. Something that everyone wants to have. And once everyone has it, that will naturally have a direct and strong effect on online trade in the future. From our perspective, that will happen really, really soon. A lot of new as well as great challenges will come with it. So quite some time ago, we asked ourselves, what will actually change specifically? What will be the focus of online trade in the future? And in what way do we need to reinvent ourselves? And how does our software need to change as a product for us to be perfectly prepared for this development? Let's look at which trends will be decisive in the future. People will still be at the center of things in the future, no matter how many groundbreaking technologies are yet to emerge. Without added value, these are completely useless. Similar to today, online trade will occur on two different levels. There's, well, rather boring, process-controlled e-commerce, which generally involves wanting to have a product, which you know perfectly well, delivered to your house for the lowest price possible and as soon as possible. E-commerce stands in contrast to that. So, e-commerce which is about being inspired, to discover new products and to dive into the world of new products, so to say. And if you ask yourself what might happen to the rather boring expression of online trade, then the answer is rather simple. Most of it will be automated anyway. Why is that? A large amount of technologies that we've just seen, that we all know, are on their way into the mainstream and are all aimed at providing us with more and opening up more time for us, liberating us from boring routine tasks. And these things will not only change the future job market, but also the core idea of online trade. We all know, nothing is as powerful as human comfort and convenience, and anything that promises more convenience will catch on. People, and we already see that today, no longer want to be categorized or pigeonholed. Everyone wants to be offered a custom shopping experience. Generally speaking, people no longer want to just pull products off the shelf. They want products to perfectly express who they are as a person. In the future, people will buy more than today: individualism, optimism, and values. And especially in a world that is characterized by automation, experiences are becoming increasingly important. In our vision of the online trade of the future, experiences will become the key in customer communication, and new technologies will open a door to a new world. To a new world where it's possible to vividly dive into retail shops, to experience products as if they're basically already in my kitchen or living room. The shopping experience of tomorrow will come second to none in matters of haptics and the feeling of visiting a lively shopping street. Automation, individuality, and experience. In our view, these are the pillars on which the online trade of the future will take place. And these trends sparked our idea. We considered that if we want to offer a software foundation that aligns with our vision of the future, so a new basis for all future software products, then we need to ensure the following. The whole thing has to be as individual as we are. It has to automate as much as possible. And at the end of the day, a product experience must be offered that is staged as excitingly as a blockbuster movie. And now we look at what happened to that idea. We started with this idea. Back in 2016, this idea became our foundation for future software products. We combined it all with what we know works really well. So we essentially spun this idea to our DNA and worked closely with you over the years to refine it. We conducted surveys, came to better understanding your requirements, and discussed the whole thing with you within the context of think tanks. This resulted in the detailed concept for a completely new technical foundation for Shopware, which is to comprise of a new core and a new administration, where automation, individualism, and experience are the focus. And in the months that followed, we massively developed it further. At the Community Day last year, we presented the current status quo to you, the new core, and the new admin. Which frameworks will be used in the future? Which priorities we will set? What will the whole thing look like, and what added value will this bring? You then sent us a great deal of feedback and suggestions, and on this basis we assembled the individual parts to create a first prototype. Last autumn, we organized a major external hackathon in Münster with more than 100 developers from the community. Together we examined concepts, ideas, the status quo, prototypes, and managed to tick off technical questions at that point. Yes, a lot has happened since then. We've made tremendous progress, which we are very excited to share with you. But before we take a closer look and talk about the next steps, let's take a look into the future. Yeah.
Ja, seitdem ist super viel passiert. Wir haben gewaltige Fortschritte gemacht und all das wird richtig, richtig cool. Bevor wir uns das aber genauer anschauen und über die nächsten Schritte sprechen, lasst uns mal eben einen Blick in die Zukunft werfen. Was soll eigentlich mit passieren? Wir haben da den vollständig neuen Shopware-Kern, der für positive...
So what's supposed to happen with this technical base? To the delight of developers, we have the completely new Shopware core and a new admin, which is not only state-of-the-art, but will also provide for sustainability, more productivity, and intelligence. This will be the foundation for all future software products. In particular, we want to bring a truly remarkable successor to Shopware 5 on the market. It will take a minute until then, however, but for you to get an initial sense for what the whole thing will look like, what it will feel like, and to see which added value it will entail, we've brought a short trailer along today. Let's take a peek.
danke ans Design für diesen tollen Trailer.
Also, thanks to design for this great trailer. Of course, the entire thing is going to come across as a lot more than just a glossy 60 seconds, but also result in a really great product. And for that to happen, we need your help. We need to make sure that we don't only consider the challenges of the future, but also current needs, of course. This is why we want to continue on the path moving forward together with you. This coming autumn, we want to hold a major feedback round to bring the product full circle and give it the necessary finish. 2018. Specifying the year is always important with these things. You'll get everything we just saw in the trailer this coming autumn. The goal is relatively simple. We want to collect as much feedback from you as possible. But we don't want to toss the technology at you like, here, see what you can do with it, but rather offer you added value from the very start. And this added value has a lot to do with our guiding theme today. So, what's involved? Who of you had an experimental set like that, or a similar one? Let me see, please. I'm proud of you. Very good. I actually had both of these, at least for a brief time. We think it's more important for us today than ever before to experiment and develop new ideas. And that is why we proudly present the Shopware Experiment Set. However, at Shopware, we're not really skilled craftsmen. We weren't even capable of folding those great boxes. We developed software, and we've taken our Beyond Horizon guiding theme here and considered what an experimental set cast as software would look like. And the result was the idea of Playground. Playground will be a platform on which we can experiment together, where we can flip things upside down. With Shopware Playground, you have access to the right tools, can exercise the imagination and courage to implement all of the crazy ideas that come to your mind. And all of that will happen on the basis of the new technical foundation that was just introduced. So, we will kill two birds with one stone. You can test everything. You can send us feedback, but you can also benefit directly from the new possibilities that result from the new technology. But let us quickly put on our lab coats and check out what the whole thing will look like in autumn. You won't have to install anything. It's basically all set to go. You can simply log in with your Shopware ID and get going. After logging in, you're on the so-called Playground Launchpad. That is the administration desktop where you can set up a range of different projects. Each project is in a closed environment here, which reflects our current technical status, and you can use this environment to experiment and test things on the basis of the new technology. So let's look at this in more detail. So now we'll set up a new project, give it a name, and my brother Sebastian may also access it. And then you basically just click on Create. The project is generated and set up in the background, and I can get started working with it in just a few seconds. Now let's check out the project. So we enter it and then are welcomed by the new admin. This is basically the center and linchpin of everything. I want to draw your attention to the blue box at the top concerning feedback. We want you to test it all and let us know what you think. Try things, as it will also be the basis for the follow-up project of Shopware 5. There are a lot of functions there that will play a major role later on when your feedback becomes very important. The added value that Playground provides is one level below. For one, there's the topic of a green meadow. Playground is based on the new Shopware core, and one mega feature of the new core is that basically everything can be done via the API. We've completely encapsulated all back-end functions via the API. That way we can start projects on the green meadow and basically liberate you from the core set of a classic online shop system and integrate Shopware as deeply into your ideas as it is necessary. Right next to it, you can see what is provided in every experimental set. A catalog of finished attempts. Here we have already provided you with a great deal of ideas or approaches. You can have a peek and you can let them inspire you. You can also use these things as a blueprint, as a model for the implementation of your own ideas. Right, if you take a closer look, you'll find lots of different functions you will typically also expect in a shop system. Of course, you can also manage all these things later in the category catalogs, which will be important in the new Shopware version later on. You can add new products, and you can edit products. And the direct comparison to Shopware 5 is important to us here, so take a close look at it. What does it feel like? Which functions do you like? Which functions are still missing in your view? Really put it through its paces. And naturally, we're all interested in the direct comparison to Shopware 5. It will also be possible to transfer data from your existing Shopware 5 installation to conduct experiments and trials based on real data. And this process, too, can be tested starting in autumn. And here as well, your feedback is extremely important to us because naturally, we want to ensure that the processes are as intuitive and simple as possible later on. Now we'll go a bit deeper. So the basic idea is that we are meant to be able to experiment, that you can do some crazy things. And that is the linchpin, the starting point of our API. And we embedded an API browser firmly into Playground, which shows everything that is possible based on the new Shopware core. There you can find all the functions that the new Shopware admin offers, but also all functions you need to display a functional e-commerce front end. For example, I can fuel native apps with data. I can integrate Shopware in my hardware projects or design completely new types of e-commerce applications for augmented or virtual reality devices. The power of imagination knows no bounds here. And for all those looking to begin slightly less technically, we have precisely this catalog with complete experiments. There, you'll not only find the approaches that we are researching and developing, but also the idea to create a common platform, a platform where we can exchange ideas and inspiration. So, everyone is invited to upload any experiments they've created so that we may all have a shared basis where we can continually rediscover ourselves and develop new ideas. There you can also find complete approaches which you can copy over to your Playground with just one click, which you can then use as the foundation to start your own project. And now let's look at one of these projects in detail. So this example involves connecting the topic of shopping parties, so the concept of a Tupperware party, so those with the plastic bowls, with Shopware. We basically took our API, coupled it with Facebook, and linked it all with a live stream. And we'll take a brief look at the result. As you can see, that's me, and then that's the idea. On a single page, I can invite my Facebook friends to join my party, where I will then present a product. They can live comment on what's happening, ask more questions, and once they are fully convinced, they can finally also buy the product without reloading or interrupting the page. The checkout process takes place on the same page. And either I do a really good job and end up with a lot of cash, or I subsequently have a lot fewer Facebook friends. And that's a good example for the things you can do with Playground. And if you want all of it, you basically just click on the button Test Experiment. It's all transferred to Playground. You can see that here on the right side, sales channels, so to speak, those are automatically embedded. I can see the Party On experiment, which is also automatically embedded. I can configure it all, test it, or simply view it. How it was incorporated, which part of that I can actually continue to use for my ideas implementation. That way I can test ideas, get inspiration, and transform aspects of the project so that it fits my business model perfectly. Playground, a platform where we can merge your and our ideas repeatedly and work closely together to develop projects that will impact the future of e-commerce. So we not only talk and philosophize, but also actively touch and influence the future together. So for everyone who is now as hot as frying oil and can't wait until autumn, you can check it all out, test it, and give us feedback today already. Thank you very much. And whoever would like to dive in a bit further, we have two exciting talks on the components, on the architecture behind it all. One concerns the core, which frameworks are used, how is it all interlinked, how does it work, and in the counterpart with a new admin, actually with similar questions. Technical talks, I need to emphasize this here because you can dive much deeper on site today. Yes, autumn will be spring, in fact, looking at what we can expect, right? We will experience the technology for the first time, something we have been working on for 2 years. So we're really excited about your feedback today already. I especially look forward to all those wild new ideas that you will implement with Playground. So we'll let that settle for a minute, and then we'll return to the here and now. Autumn is still a while off. And no one will go home today empty-handed. We brought a lot of cool new things along, which we can all benefit from without having to wait long. And by us all, I mean everyone in the Shopware ecosystem. More than 80,000 shop operators, partners, and developers. Roughly 15,000 more than just last year. And if we take a look at the middle, then we can see the big five. And you absolutely do not have to be a prophet to know what's next. Of course, we've brought, drum roll, a new Shopware version. Shopware 5.5 is ready to launch and will bring lots of cool new possibilities. Three main topics took center stage for us during the development. They involved the topic of perception, daring to look beyond our noses, fitting the guiding theme, and it's about discovering new possibilities, to grow. And it also involves gaining as much wisdom as possible with the help of knowledge. When we dare to look beyond the main limits of our ecosystem, we realize that bigger ecosystems coexist to our left and right. These are open source technologies that are vital to Shopware, and one of these is PHP. So basically the technology that Shopware is built upon. And these technologies continuously develop further as well. New versions of PHP periodically appear and offer massive improvements in speed. They ensure a higher level of quality and reliability. And Shopware is generally compatible with all these PHP versions. That is the case until you want to install one of the many encrypted plugins from our shop. For then, you will get to know this unpleasant guy here. He works for IonCube. That's the producer of the solution that is used to encrypt code for third-party plugins. And it's essentially responsible for the fact that it takes the maximum amount of time until IonCube is compatible with a new PHP version. You could even say, until then, your shop is shackled up in cuffs again. And this, dear community, cannot continue to carry on in such a way. And what follows now in no way has a personal background, but I'm absolutely sick of these bondage games. It just doesn't fit to our corporate values, nor to the spirit of an open community that thinks progressively. That is why in 2016 we took the initial steps to offer a completely open system when we announced that we will make all our extensions and products open source. So we were looking for a final way out of this situation together with our third-party plugin manufacturers, and we discovered new possibilities to protect intellectual property outside of encryption. So I'll keep it short and sweet. Forget about this guy. As of Shopware 5.5, all shop extensions are generally open source. We're breaking the chains. We're finally saying goodbye to IonCube, and that opens up a lot of potential for all of us. We'll be able to benefit from innovation much more quickly, which comes from the world of PHP, for example. The plugins will reach a higher level of quality. More projects will emerge wherever these extensions are used. And above all, it will lead to us all being able to grow together further. Personally, I'm really happy and look forward to an unencrypted future with you. One way to grow is the second biggest focus of 5.5, to dare to venture out into the big wide world. And that's exactly one of the growth values that we're pursuing at Shopware at the moment. To mention a figure, last month for the first time, more than 50% of new Shopware installations came from outside of Germany. And it's absolutely exciting to see which great products are emerging on an international level. We were interested to see what shape that all takes with you. And in the last Shopware survey in November, one of the core questions, so the following, was that we asked you, who of you distributed their products outside of Germany? And the outcome was the following. 40% said, yeah, I'm totally international. I really sell my products in a whole range of countries. 60% exclusively sell their products in Germany, in part also to Switzerland or even Austria. The reason for that is simple. Of course, it doesn't make sense for everyone. Secondly, it comes with a lot of complexity. So at this point, we definitely cannot solve all things responsible for this complexity. But we have pondered and thought about what we can do from Shopware's side of things to make this process simpler, to ensure fewer obstacles. Taking the initial steps to localize and enter a new territory are difficult. You need to have appropriate payment types and shipment options. You need to consider the proper way to handle taxes and legal aspects. And we're collaborating with technology providers and members of the ecosystem to continuously ensure that we can equip you with the right settings so that you can effectively launch in a new country. We've achieved a great amount of progress in that area and will continue to work on it massively in the coming months. In addition to those things, we've also looked at the state of Shopware itself. Are there still areas of Shopware that are dated, making it difficult to internationalize? Yes, we did find those kinds of areas. We first approached the categories. As of version 5.5, it's no longer necessary to duplicate shop categories. You can easily apply all translations from one central point. We then applied the same concept to all remaining content. For static shop pages, for forms, you now have even better options for managing country-specific content from your Shopware backend. You no longer need to duplicate anything and can thus offer your Shopware shop in different languages, super quickly and easily. And last but not least, we also examined the SEO topic. Wearing our international hats, we considered, are there any parts that need work to ensure that the respective language version will also be listed properly in the international search engine indexes? Yeah, so we hope that this will contribute to you developing more courage to take the step across country borders. If you are on a path to success with this, or some other measure, then it's absolutely crucial that Shopware keeps pace. For a lot of people, performance is also extremely important. And that surely also applies to large football clubs, which basically sell out their stadiums in a really short amount of time. And they make their ticket sales manageable, or even sell their merchandise. And we have significantly more than these three. But I was told that if I show a certain combination of football club logos, then the screen would catch fire. We have successful startups who appear on TV shows, such as the German rendition of Dragon's Den, and generate thousands of orders in a short amount of time. And we have shops with such a high demand on traffic that they continuously have severe speed requirements. And hence, for 5.5, the speed theme was also a topic that we examined closely. And this time, we considered the admin and back-end and thought about which areas we could accelerate. Can we improve this or that and ensure more speed and productivity? And we can have a look at this example. To frame this, on the one side is 5.4, the current shop version with a classic MySQL backend, and on the other side is the new version where for the first time we have the opportunity to retrieve large entities, large objects such as products, customers, and orders with elastic search in the administration. At this point, we no longer have to rely on long waiting periods from a relatively slow MySQL backend. And let's take a look at the effect this has. Situation. We open the customer list that contains 100,000 customers, and you can already see that the loading bar is continuously loading in 5.4. In 5.5, I basically no longer have any loading times, or at least not noticeably so. It's super fast. I basically get my result in real time. And that is really a massive added value. We did this in a lot of places in Shopware. This means that you will be able to work much faster in the back end, especially with large data amounts. The third area in which we did a lot is all about the knowledge topic. Knowledge in its raw form. So as data and information is created without interruption surrounding your online shops. The problem often isn't that we have too little data, but that so much data is created. So we're faced with a mountain of data and quickly lose track of it all. And if you can imagine that mountain of data as a real mountain for a minute, you'd be at a complete loss. A lot of potential is buried in this data. A large number of cool ideas that will help you optimize your shops, and thus ensure a more awesome shopping experience. So we somehow need to manage to retrieve this treasure. We need to salvage it in some way, and to manage that, unfortunately, we will need to climb to the very peak. Then, once we've arrived at the very top, we become the king of the mountain. We have a total overview. The fog lifts, and the ideas surrounding the optimization of your shops will virtually come to your mind automatically. So what did we do? Basically, it's quite simple. We sought a way to make the flood of available data usable to you. A path to the summit that's as efficient as possible. We turn the data in your shops into knowledge. We do all that by focusing on the essential information and adding lots of new ideas to anything that is meant to help you to improve your shops every day. And to achieve that, we examined all the data and all the correlations that exist in Shopware. And we also looked at what is actually important and how we can visualize all of that in a way that gets to the heart of it all and practically opens up the knowledge behind it automatically. Let's take a look at an example. What you see here is the new revenue assessment. What you notice right away is that it's sitting quite pretty now. The visual qualities play a large role in understanding data. It is vital to be able to quickly and intuitively capture the information. We're all familiar with those incredible complex statistics. Shout out here to all the Excel heroes out there. And that's why we want to design the access to this data as simply and intuitively as possible, so that we have a perfect overview of all our shop KPIs. We not only beautified our statistics, we also added value to the whole thing. We considered how we could incorporate knowledge into the respective areas of consideration and reveal things that had been obscured, or that at least were not made clearly visible on our radar. Let's take an example of this. In this example, we basically fade in the previous year's revenue as an additional dimension. Thus, we have a direct comparison of what we achieved last year versus today. So that's a simple example, but it shows what it's all about. It involves reflecting, asking the important questions, and drawing the right conclusions. And we cannot merely look at the past. We can also risk taking an unrestricted look at the future. We integrated a prepayment function with which you can make a sales forecast for the next 7 to 14 days based on seasonal data, historical data, and current trends, so to speak. And of course, this is never accurate down to the cent. But that's not what it's all about. It's about discovering tendencies so that you can relatively quickly decipher whether you're moving in the right or wrong direction. This is made even more clear with the following statistic. This is basically another revenue assessment, yet this time based on the customer structure. So how much revenue is generated from your male and female customers, and how is it distributed across different age groups? And what is striking here straight away are the yellow points with exclamation marks. They appear whenever the system has found a significant point in the data that is likely of interest to you. And when opening it, the information appears to be rather trivial at first. We achieved the highest revenue in our example with women in the target group aged 45 and 60. The second piece of information is a bit more interesting. We generate most orders with male customers between the age of 35 and 45. If you think about this, that means that we basically have a significantly lower average order value for this target group. Armed with this information, with this knowledge, I can now think about how to change this. How can I apply this insight and combine it with the broad means of Shopware? In this case, I could set up a customer stream and more precisely address this target group. So approach these mail customers and then carry out marketing measures, make orders via cross and upselling so that I can increase the order value of this target group. And that is what it's all about. It's about discovering these many small and large optimization goals again and again, based on these insights, and to work on these goals. But above all, to know which screws and bolts I need to turn to improve these KPIs. And if we take another look at this hill at Mount Data, then we aren't even that far away from the summit with these new possibilities. But to have the ultimate overview, we need something else. We need to contextualize all the knowledge that we've acquired around our shops. So we need a benchmark, so to say. We need to be able to compare. And to want to compare this topic is another one of those innate human things. And that is something that I can also observe with my kids every day. No matter whether it's about who can ride a bike the fastest, who can annoy the fish with more persistence, and this will be important later on, who can drink the most. To see the benchmark, what others accomplish compared to me, provides constant motivation to want to work on myself, to want to reach goals that still seem to be unattainable yesterday. But it's not only about that. Anyone who has an older brother or older sister knows they don't only annoy you like hell, but they also offer you support and a point of orientation. An orientation in the shape of the ability to compare one another is an integral component of the new statistics. You can lay an industry index across all KPIs, across all evaluations, and you immediately see in which areas you can still improve. And prove what you're made of. And there's a lot of potential in that. It provides plenty of fuel for exciting questions and new ideas that will lead us to continuously develop our shops further. And now it's time for something healthy. And within that topic, it is of course extremely important to pay attention to what we compare. And that's why we'll take a look at how that works in the background. First of all, participating in this industry index function is voluntary, anonymous, and free of charge. Anonymous is especially important. No data, customer-related data, are transferred. It's not possible to draw any conclusions about the participating shops. The data is then analyzed and grouped by age, size, activity, and branch so that we can ensure that they do not compare apples with oranges but shops in the same sector. Models are trained using this data. So to speak, derivations are made which are then individualized, smoothed out, and played back to each and every one of you. So everyone will receive a comparison that reflects more or less individual branch indexes quite accurately, which also contain potential areas of growth and optimization for you. Let's take a look at that. Here, we have another one of the new statistics. This one is about the evaluation of the conversion rate throughout the year. And in this and every other statistic, you can include comparative data via the branch tab. So let's do that. A new line basically appears, the purple line, and displays how the branch was positioned in the comparative period concerning the conversion rate. In our example, I can see a lot of room for improvement. 1% less. You can definitely work on that, and should work on that. And that's simply the idea behind it. You reflect, you ask questions. For example, you could take a look at the shipment and payment methods in the branch comparison and consider what you might need to try, or find clues that ignite a new idea for how to increase your conversion rate. And here's the example of the customer structure once again. Here too, there's the option to include the branch data. So you are also provided with a different branch comparison, and again the yellow exclamation marks to draw your attention to particular areas of interest. In this case, it detected that there is a target group in my branch which generates significantly more revenue compared to my shop. And I can now use this information. I can note it in my agenda, can consider whether I need to kick my marketing into high gear, Or do I perhaps need to change or expand something in my product range to better address this target group? So it's about asking questions and continuously developing new ideas. And all these approaches, all these ideas, and all these new statistics are part of a bigger vision, namely to make shopware increasingly more intelligent. To ensure that you automatically and continuously receive new ideas surrounding the optimization of your shops. And we will massively expand and develop this topic further in the next shopware versions. To stay in the imagery, we will build a cable car so that you can swiftly reach the summit, grab the ideas, and then return to the base. We have set our eyes on the data mountain. We've developed lots of new statistics to intuitively gain access to the information stored in every crevice. We looked at what we can do in the enhancement area, which dimensions and interconnection we would incorporate to make the acquired insights as vast as possible, so that viewing statistics does not merely reveal data that have been public knowledge for a while, but instead that new interesting interconnections are indicated. All of that is meant to support us in optimizing intelligently, so that we may discover lots of little nuts and bolts that we can work on to make our shops more successful. But that we in fact know which bolts actually need to be turned, so that we don't just fire blindly on all cylinders, but can optimize very intelligently instead. And the branch comparison creates an opportunity to reflect. We can examine in which areas we're already performing very well, where there's potential for improvement, and we can use the entire matter as a point of orientation, as a benchmark that helps us make the right decisions. All these things are examples for the possibilities that emerge when we work together better as a community. When we share our knowledge and experience on a wide range, then added value is generated that benefits every one of us. In total, these all lead to us constantly working on bettering ourselves, and that we all become a bit more awesome every day. And 5.5 in particular is meant to support you in doing so with lots of new functions. So, the beta version of 5.5 is available to download as of immediately. You can already test the whole thing out for yourselves. Thank you. So you can test the whole thing out and gladly also send us feedback on it, or get a live demonstration here on site at the Shopware booth. In a moment, Sebastian Klöpper will present both Shopware 5.5 and the Shopware universe in more detail and outline the small functions we've been busy working on. But he will also include everything concerning the Shopware Enterprise universe, including a look into the latest version of the B2B suite. Yes, so let's summarize once more. We basically started with the topic of imaginative powers and courage, today's guiding theme. Beyond horizon, allowing new ideas, discussing more ideas. And please, dear community, let's start with it right away. We talked about the future, about automation, individuality, and experiences, the trends that will shape the way we buy and sell online in the future. We're creating a new foundation so that we're perfectly prepared for these trends. And this autumn, you can take an active role in shaping Shopware Playground, where you can try everything. You can make your own individual vision of the future become a reality. And here and now, we brought a really hot new Shopware version that not only breaks free from all the chains, but also ensures lots of new ideas for growth. New statistics will be enriched intelligently and will provide you with a fuel for rich new ideas. Let us seize this day and bring forward new thoughts and approaches with the power of imagination and courage. I look forward to having interesting and inspiring conversations with you. And of course, especially to that €1 billion conversation with that person sitting in the audience right here. Thanks very much for joining me today. Thank you.